Go, go, Power Rangers versus Transformers, more than meets the eye, versus G.I. Joe. All we need is mask, and we've all got the great theme songs. What's up, nerds? It's Nerdy Nerdness from your nerd, the OGGM, here at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 30th day of May, 2023, in the year of our Lord Hello Kitty. It's time to take a look at the Tuesday tabletop role-playing game tidbits of news. Little teeny chunks of stuff that's going on, percolating in the world that doesn't have anything to do with Wizards of the Coast. I am trying to do this new format where I just sort of, feed out teeny bits of news every day instead of just shoving huge chunks of news down your throats Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you appreciate it this way, please let me know. I think that way, if I talk about something you're interested in, it's just in one format instead of you have to, go through my 30 minutes of nonsense to find that one little story you're interested in. So if it works for you, great. Let me know. If it doesn't work for you, let me know. Renegade Press wants us to know it's the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. Thank you for Renegade Press for keeping the Power Rangers energy alive, because Lord knows Hasbro's doing shit all with it other than that nostalgia bait, but in the end, not very good. But how much could they really do with 50 minutes 30th anniversary thing that was basically, dedicated to Trini? So, yeah, we know that there's a new Power Rangers series coming out called Cosmic Fury, which may or may not be the last series. They're claiming that they want to use more original footage and original mechs and original designs because I guess they don't want to keep paying the pittance that Toei charges them to use the Power Rangers Super Sentai stuff, and that they are out of Super Sentais to mine. Mind you, we've got about, 50 years worth of Super Sentai, of which you guys have only done 30. So, we still haven't seen the train one. And just, so this one's going to be based upon the last space one, which was interesting that it had like a dozen main characters, but Cosmic Fury is so far going on 6 main characters, but we don't know. They're going to use who knows? We haven't really seen any new information on it in a while, but not to be outdone, Renegade Press has got a whole bunch of new stuff coming out for Transformers, Power Rangers, and of course, the long-awaited, anticipated My Little Pony role-playing game, My Little Pony. Now, the number one on this today's is this field guide thing. They're releasing a field guide adventure crossover source book so you can live out all those great crossovers you've always wanted to do. Power Rangers versus Transformers versus G.I. Joe. All those action figure battles you played out in your room as a kid. It's been done dozens of times in the comic books. Well, now they are releasing it. They're taking pre-orders. It is called the Field Guide to Action Adventure Crossover Source Book. So you can finally have G.I. Joe versus Transformers versus Power Rangers versus My Little Pony, which we know My Little Pony would win. So, yeah, I'm excited about that as a Power Rangers fan. Also, they have the Mighty Morphin My Little Pony role-playing game coming out. They're taking the pre-orders now. Yes, I know there were at least 2 others, perhaps more. I know of at least 2 other My Little Pony or My Little Pony adjacent tabletop role-playing games in the past, but those weren't official. This is official from Hasbro, and therefore it is now the official My Little Pony tabletop role-playing game from the official producer of the My Little Pony tabletop role-playing game, Renegade Press. The other 3, I want to say 2, maybe there's a third, they weren't official. Even if they used official My Little Pony artwork, they weren't. This is the official, just to clarify any confusion. Got some new stuff coming out for the G.I. Joe role-playing game. Some new stuff for the Transformers role-playing game, just in time for that new Transformers series that was supposed to be on, but yet hasn't started. But Beast Wars is coming out. Could this be the movie that restarts the faltering Transformers franchise and re-interests everybody in more than meets the eyes? Or will it be a failure? I don't know. Seeing Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal face off against Megatron and Unicron could be fun, or it could be dumb. Moving on, we have some news from our friends over at Paizo. Yes, I know you thought we were done with Paizo news for the week, but PaizoCon happened, and we have the wrap-up of PaizoCon. They talked about the ever-changing Pathfinder Remastered Player Core, GM Core, Monster Core, Player Core 2, which now is officially, as far as I know, being called Pathfinder 2nd Edition Core. Nowhere on there does it say remastered. Nowhere on there does it show the ORC. But they could change the cover again. Other than that, basically, we know that there's a new AP coming out called Rage of Elements. And something called How of the Wild. Not Howl of the Wild. How of the Wild. It's a monster book specifically designed around wizardsies. We've got an adventure called High Helm coming out. We've got some new ancestries for Starfinder. We've got some new external stuff like a new hero deck, some new figures, some another adventure paths that they're announcing, including one that's going to be like their smallest one. This is only a 3-part adventure path as opposed to the usual 6 to 9. Looks like they're kind of something coming out called the Darklands. So I guess they're going to explore the Paizo version of the Underdark. There's something coming out called Starfinder Enhanced. Is this a completely different rule book, or is it just additions to the existing rule book? If I have to buy a new rule book and you've changed things from the previous rule book, it's a new rule book. It's a new edition. But I apparently am alone in thinking this. I've just had the Riot Act read to me by one of my followers for saying that. So, maybe it's not. Maybe I need to rethink what I clarify as a new edition. It does include something called Bone Familiars. Because apparently nobody's done that before? No. I'm sure somebody's done skeletal familiars of small animals, right? Yes? No? Yes? No? Maybe not. Who knows? Anyways, it happened. It was both online and in-person. The online was the main thing they were pushing this year, as opposed to the in-person one. I have a feeling we'll see more and more of that. I mean, we saw online cons during COVID, but then they petered out and people were saying, we're going back live. But then the live cons weren't really making any money. Like 5 people showed up. It doesn't justify the expense for the food and the hotels and everything else. So now they're like going back to we'll do half online and half physical, which is what Paizo did, which Gen Con's been doing on and off. I'm assuming Gen Con is going to do it again this year. Gen Con being in June, I want to say, but maybe I'm wrong. And of course, SDCC is coming up. So I have a feeling we will eventually percolate our way back. Percolate's a word I'm using a lot today. Percolate our way back to being more online with conventions and less in face. Why? COVID? No, just because it's expensive. Just money. Everything is going up in price, and it's just going to become counterintuitive for small conventions to fork out all that money in the hopes that they get 5 people to show up to justify the amount of money they spent. While doing it all online saves you a ton of money. Sure, probably won't affect the big guys like San Diego Comic-Con, but smaller cons, definitely I can see them going more and more online as the world changes and the future progresses, and online technology eventually maybe becomes a viable resource. The AI took over the world, but the dial-up is so slow we didn't know for like 5 years. Turns out, it did. Just kind of like those YouTube messages that don't show up for a year. I'm funny because I'm stupid. And just in closing, Jeremy Crawford wants us to remember just again that it was never meant to be called 1D&D. Never meant to be called 1D&D. Go Power Rangers. Very excited for a role-playing game I've never seen or played, but we know we've all done the what if Power Rangers fought Transformers and My Little Pony in their minds, so now it's coming out. And finally, in Hasbro's news, Rom the Spaceknight is returning. What? Who? What? Rom the Spaceknight is a cult classic short-run comic book and an action figure thing that Hasbro / Mattel / whoever put out during the 80s. It was this big silver thing that was battery powered and had a laser gun, and he had a comic book for a while, and it was very popular, and then he kind of just disappeared and got forgotten on the island of misfit toys. Well, Hasbro and Marvel have announced he's coming back. He's going to show up again in the main Marvel universe, which means since Marvel, Hasbro made Rom. Rom shows up in Marvel. As we know, anything Hasbro makes is canon with AD&D, right? We can't that thing from last year. Remember that, where there was those people like, well, it's canon in D&D because Hasbro made it. And like, no, it's not. It's not. Yeah, just because you say it's canon, it's not canon. It just, but whatever. So I guess that means Rom the Spaceknight is now canon in D&D, and since Rom is showing up in the Marvel universe, the Marvel universe is now canon in D&D, which means the X-Men are now in Dungeons and Dragons, and everything in the Marvel universe is now showing up in Dungeons and Dragons because it probably has a Lego, and as we know, Lego is canon. The logic is flawed, but I understand why the people were doing that. It was just an attempt to get some clickbait, and I'm sure if they're still doing it, and I was just informed that they were, and I'm just like, why? But I get it. Relevancy, clickbait, get people angry at you. So Rom the Spaceknight is coming back. If you were a fan of Rom, I had the Rom action figure. Probably one of those many things that I'm like, I wish I still had that because it's probably worth money now. But between 3 different disasters at 3 different households, most of my old toys, pretty much everything I owned before 2018 has been destroyed in one form or another. So all my old action figures, which are probably worth a small fortune now, gone. That's it for the tidbits of Tuesday tabletop role-playing game news. In this, the 30th anniversary of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, on the 30th day of May in the year in our Lord, John Cena, 2023. I have been the OG GM, and you are not. But you're still awesome, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Talk to you soon. Get off my land, you damn marks.